Here we go.
I'm ready. I have my pen, so.
You are listening to Keep Canada Weird by the Nighttime Podcast.
You said it yourself, Aaron. You have your pen. You're ready. Why do you need a pen for this?
I hold a pen so that I can create the illusion of being a professional.
Okay.
Basically, when you see like a true journalist in a news broadcast at their news desk, they often have, a little bit of paper, a pen, and they kind of, so it's just kind of a way for me to physically get into the character of a professional podcasting journalist.
All right. Well, if it makes you feel good, let's do it, because we got a big night ahead of us. We always enjoy popping open the mailbag, and I believe this is our 5th time doing it. Do you want to introduce the mailbag to new listeners? What the heck are we doing here tonight?
Well, basically, over weeks and months, we accumulate many voicemails from listeners who call into the show and tell us about random things. And oftentimes in the weekly episodes that you normally hear, we do feature some voicemails, but we don't have enough time to feature all of them. So every now and then, we like to dip into the mailbag and have one episode in particular where we feature the unheard voicemails from the KCW mailbag.
Yeah, and they're unheard for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're just kind of like a bit off topic, so it could derail the weekly weird news roundup. Sometimes they're just a little too crazy, and sometimes they're damn right inappropriate. And I think we may have one of those tonight, so I'm excited. Yeah. If you tell me to do it, I'll pop open the mailbag.
Yeah, pop it open. Mailbag. Bag.
You've got mail.
I love that song.
Yeah, such a good song.
I should get the intern to go back through the history of that song, because we talked about it a little bit, and then you just kind of sang it one night. I sent your singing to Monty Data, who does the intro and outro music for Nighttime, and Monty Data threw that together.
Yeah, Monty Data did an excellent job. The intern has their plate full right now. I don't know if they need another project to go hunting for. That's
true. We'll get them a pass on this one. Let's get into it. Usually we start by revealing our special drinks. We don't do that on the bonus episodes or the mailbag episodes. That's simply a weekly weird news thing. But in lieu of our revelation of our special drinks, let's hear from a listener in Wisconsin who has a special drink recommendation. And since you got the pen and paper there, I want you to use your investigative journalism brain, because I think there's more to this special drink recommendation than meets the ear. Here it comes.
Hey, Jordan and Aaron. If it sounds like I'm in a wind tunnel, I'm not. It's just really nice out here in Wisconsin right now. But I have a recommendation for a special drink. I don't know if you guys have this in Canada, but if not, I bet somebody from the U.S. can send this. These are really good. They're called bubblers, and they're like these caffeinated drinks, like about the amount that you get in a cup of coffee. So, if you're looking for a little kick, I'm actually drinking one right now. And they have a lot of different flavors, which is nice. So you can try all of them. This is the newest one. It's peach raspberry, and they're only 5 calories per can. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit better, but like around the realm of soda, it's not like a sparkling water. Like it tastes like, a soda with some caffeine in it. They're really good. It's very popular over here. Pretty much most people will have a bubbler instead of a coffee. So that's my drink recommendation. And I'm going to continue driving, listening to the podcast. It's kind of a regular thing for me now. I listen to it on my long drives to and from different spots. But yeah, check it out.
Anything strike you as odd about that?
A lot, actually. I want to start at the very end. So this listener drives to and from to different spots.
A little vague as to where they're going and coming from. And that's a part of my theory. But yeah.
Okay, that's actually all I remember now because I'm only focused on what these different spots are and what they mean and where they are and what you do with these different spots. Like,
Yeah, and why do you bring it up if you can't say it? You know what I think happened? I think she started to say it, and then she realized she was saying too much and had to pull back and said two different spots because clearly the different spots she's going to is businesses that sell soft drinks in her role as a sales agent for the bubbler drinks. What else could it be?
I think one of these spots is called Makeout Point.
Oh, you think it's
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
Okay,
A
they
kissing
travel
and a
to and from.
hugging.
Okay, because I believe she's going to like Jim and Pam's convenience to tell them about Bubbler and try to take orders because that seemed like a sales pitch. And the reason I say that is it hits so many notes. Like there's different flavors, only 5 calories. It's a lot of people are drinking these in instead of coffee. It almost like she had ad copy that she was including.
Hmm.
It didn't come across to me as a natural pitch. I believe she works for this company, Bubbler. But I will say it worked. If I can find it, I'll try it because it's sweetened with erythritol, which is like a sugar-free sweetener that I put in a lot of stuff because it tastes just
Right.
like sugar, and it's good for people like me who try to avoid carbs. I don't know if they have it in Canada. She talks about like maybe you got a listener out there who could send you some. She literally has some in her hand. Do they not have mailboxes where she lives?
Well, she's busy going to and from different spots. So I don't think there's probably not a mailbox in the different spots that she goes to. I think the whole drink aspect, the bubbler aspect of this voicemail is a distraction from us focusing on the different spots that they go to and from. So
Okay.
I think we need to forget about the bubblers and really dive deep on the different spots that this person goes to and from. To
hmm
and from.
I don't know. I think it's a strange voicemail, but this is the mailbag. We don't have too much time to dive that deep and solve a mystery like that tonight. We got to get into it. Can we move on?
She goes to one different spot and leaves that spot eventually. She doesn't stay at that different spot. Then she leaves it and goes to another different spot and then leaves that
Okay.
one.
Again, the voicemails we're going to be hearing tonight were voicemails received during the month of March. So, of course, most of them apply to episodes aired in March, but I
Mhm.
can't help but air this one. This is a voicemail we received relating to Entirely Tires, which was an episode we aired in February. I think listeners of Keep Canada Weird will remember Entirely Tires, where we covered entirely tire stories. Well, a listener named Anne has some serious allegations about this show related to our airing of these tire stories. Uh, Spoiler alert, I think she's probably looking for some money. Here's part one of Anne's two-part attack on this show.
Hey, Jordan and Aaron, this is Anne sending you a message from Colorado. I wasn't going to send this message for what will become an obvious reason. So, I listened to the Entirely Tires episode on a plane ride back to Denver. And as I was listening to it, I was thinking, man, I've really had good luck with my tires lately. I hope that, listening to this episode doesn't cause some kind of jinx. So when I landed in Denver and got to my car, I was really happy to see that my car was fine. The tires looked great because it was cold and dark. So I got home. Well, sure enough, the next day I go to the garage to go somewhere and I have a flat. And I haven't had a flat in a long time. And all I can say is that your episode definitely brought that on me. I'm not sure if I'm the only one. I may just be speaking for a group of people who had this jinx and were just afraid to call in. So I'm taking one for the team, and I am begging you not to do another Entirely Tires episode on behalf of everyone's tires everywhere. So I hope you take this to heart and do not do another episode. Thanks. Bye.
If true, if our simply talking about it could create harm like that. That's pretty scary because there's a lot of sensitive stuff we talk about. What will our Keep Canada Romantic do to the hearts of people out there?
Oh, it'll be a new baby boomer generation on the rise because, after World War II, everybody was excited and everybody was copulating in celebration of the end of the war. The baby boomers generation was born. So I think the Keep Canada Romantic series will create a new baby boom, and any population issues that countries might have seen before will be solved.
Mm. Uh, as you're talking, I don't know if I look distracted, but I'm kind of tuning into something that's going to come up a little later in the episode. This may kind of come back to haunt us a little bit as we get going. My reaction to this is we talked about tires. She listened. She was given a tire story. We talk about romance. We talk about animal uprisings. We talk about the theft of butter. We talk about the misbehaving teenagers. And that seems to kind of like our discussing it and providing those topics a platform seem to kind of agitate the whole thing. So I don't think she's wrong that we may have played a part in her tire problem, but her tire problem is actually worse than she made it sound on that voicemail because about 15 minutes later she left a separate voicemail to let us know exactly how bad the situation was with her tires and how it's our fault.
Hmm.
Hey, this is Anne again, the person that is coming forward about the tire jinx that you guys caused. I just wanted to mention that it wasn't just a flat. My tire was beyond repair, and not only did I have to replace that tire, but I had to buy a second tire so that, it would be balanced. So I just wanted to clarify that. Bye, guys.
Thanks for
Uh,
the clarification.
yeah, is Anne asking for us to refund her for the tires? Is that what she's dancing around here?
I think that's pretty obvious. I think that's what she's looking for, or at least getting like a swag pack or something to maybe make it right in some way. But I think,
Right.
like she says in the first part of her two-part allegation, I think she just wants to speak for the voiceless, the other people out there who had their tires affected by our airing of tire stories. And for that, I say, Anne, you're brave, and thank you.
Here's the step we need to take now in order to provide some evidence that this is a true curse that we have unleashed upon the Keep Canada Weird Nation. So we need to hear from other listeners who have come across the same situation with their tires shortly after they listened to the Entirely Tires episode.
Yeah, or for that matter, anyone who has had kind of a miracle of coincidence. We talk about blank, and then blank happens to them. It could be tires. It's likely going to be. We're going to be flooded with tire stories, probably, but it could be other things too. We talk about a lot of weird stuff that comes back to haunt members of the Keep Canada Weird correspondent pool.
Well, here's what's going to happen. So, and they're going to make a movie about this someday, kind of a psychological thriller of some kind. But so we air Entirely Tires. Keep Canada Weird listeners listen to Entirely Tires, and all of a sudden they have problems with their tires. So they call into the show that did the episode on Entirely Tires, and then they complain about the fact that our episode of Entirely Tires caused their tire issues. And then we have so many new tire related voicemails that we are forced to make a new episode of Entirely Tires, which then causes another flood of tire issues. And then it just
Mm.
turns into a vicious circle of us constantly having to release new Entirely Tire episodes and then constantly causing tire issues to the listeners.
But maybe that's already happening, right? Because it is a topic we keep revisiting. I think if we do mailbags until the day we die, we'll just kind of continue to feed this cycle. So it's like that. I don't want to ask for our own assassination, but I think if that doesn't happen, people's tires will be affected.
Yeah, this is getting very dark right now. I think we should move forward. I'm nervous now.
Okay, well, this next one I'm going to leave entirely to you because I don't want to touch this one with a 10-foot pole. And you kind of brought this on us. If you remember, on our prior mailbag episode, which we released during the month of March, we heard from a listener named Jennifer who had a rant. Back then, we were entertaining, call in and just rant about whatever, and we'll include it. We had a listener named Jennifer who ranted about all sorts of things. She ranted about gift giving. I think her mother-in-law was involved in the gift giving charade. But at one point, she ranted about toilet paper.
Charmin or Cardinal, and it's really fluffy and it's got lots of lint. You can see the lint from the side of the toilet paper roll as it's flaking off. And I don't want lint there when I'm wiping or when I'm wiping my kids' butts. I don't want lint all over the place.
You kind of speculated on why the lint of toilet paper would be a problem justifying her rant. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah, I did. I supported her, I recall.
Yeah, so a listener named Sherry heard our discussion, and I think I guess what's going on is Sherry doesn't think two men can genuinely and sincerely understand why lint on toilet paper would be a problem for a woman. I'm going to let Sherry explain, and afterwards, I don't want to say anything. You have this one.
Okay.
Hello, Jordan and Aaron. This is Sherry down here in North Dakota. Long time no talk. I'm trying not to freeze my butt off as I'm delivering mail out here. Anyways, toilet paper. I think what she's ranting about as far as the lint goes, you kind of have to be a woman to understand that. It's not so much the butt area to me as it is the woman area. Lint gets left behind. I don't think I need to say more about that. Anyway, I better get back to work. All right, bye.
Okay, so I do take offense to this because
Offense.
I worked, as you know, as some of the listeners know, I worked at a women's lingerie store.
La Senza?
At La Senza, yes. So I think I can speak from, some kind of a, professional experience here. And I think that, she's talking about the vagina. She's not, let's just say it out loud. She's talking about toilet paper lint on.
Okay.
What?
Nothing. I'm just not as desensitized to that as you. I know you worked in that industry for years. A lot of people are listening and probably learning for the first time that you had a career in women's underwear. What did you do at La Senza?
I was the stock person.
So what did your job entail?
My job entailed receiving, organizing, and displaying stock.
So was there like a back room in La Senza where you just spent like all day sorting?
There was a back stock room, yeah, where I would fold and steam and hang and just be around, count underwear, women's underwear.
And you got paid?
Yes, it was. I was a professional.
Okay.
I was a professional. So that's how I can.
I guess that's and I wanted that context just to show that this isn't just some lunatic on a podcast spouting off about issues that affect women.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, the toilet paper lint isn't just attacking vaginas. It's I see it all over my floor sometimes.
I know, and that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Or if you have black clothes on, God forbid,
Yeah.
a piece of toilet paper touches my black hoodie, and then all of a sudden, because I have kids, so I'm forever blowing noses and wiping toothpaste off of necks and hands, and so I get that stuff on me. So I get it just from a completely different point of view than all of the women and you.
This is why I needed to speak on this, and I know exactly what she's talking about. You can get toilet paper lint anywhere you put toilet paper.
And then with that said, let's go on a quick ad break. When we get back, we'll catch up with some more listener mail. And one of these pieces of mail is going to take us down one of the deepest rabbit holes Keep Canada Weird will ever have explored. We'll get to that after this break. Aaron, let's catch up with some listeners who had feedback related to episode 153, which was released on the 1st of March. This is going to be a voicemail from a listener named Sean who had some feedback on an interesting Quebec law that we discussed. If you remember, it was called Bill 85, and we did a story on how Bill 85 sought to change rules related to how many staff a convenience store or a grocery store could have working back shift in Quebec. Here's Sean's voicemail, and then I can give you a bit of an update on this story.
Hey, Jordan and Aaron. I grew up in Montreal and I moved to Vancouver in 1992. But I come back every summer, and it always strikes me as odd that the grocery stores and Walmart and stuff like that are always closed at 10. And I don't understand, like here in Vancouver, I can walk to a grocery store that's open 24 hours. I don't know why it would close earlier in Quebec. And now you're talking about this law, and it all sort of comes together for me. Now, dépanneurs, or convenience stores, they charge more for their products, so it's harder for them to compete with larger grocery stores or even pharmacies. So if they're open later, people are going to go to them when they need something in a pinch late at night. Now, if the laws are changed, it's going to hurt their business. And that's why this gentleman who owns a dépanneur is complaining. So that's probably why that law is in place. Jordan, another thing I have to say is I think you actually like Tim Hortons. You go there and buy so many of their products. So if you don't like them, if that's true, just stop going. All right. Thanks. Keep Canada weird. It's Sean, by the way.
I'll address that attack at the end. It's research. It's to research for content for this show and to inform listeners as to why they should stay away from Tim's. And it's also a little bit of keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Well, I've called you out on this issue a number of times throughout the history of this show.
And before, too. I think you probably commented on it
quite a
before.
while. But it's finally refreshing to hear a listener call in to repeat my complaints about, Jordan bus stop backhoe Bonaparte and
The hypocrite.
his hypocrisy. So,
I don't call it Tim Horton. I don't call it Tim's coffee. I call it hypocrite juice.
you
But let
call
me
it
give you an
call it best friend juice because you love Mr. Tim Horton.
the story that Sean is responding to, it has had a significant update. When we aired that story, that was a proposed bill, but since that episode, Bill 85 has passed. It was a bill that set out to remove limits on grocery and pharmacy staffing. It also kicked off pilot projects that let business set their own hours instead of being restricted by government rules, and it simplified many permit processes. So ultimately, it was a bill that sought to make it easier to run a business in Quebec, and it was almost like a whole bunch of little minor changes within different types of businesses. But there was an interesting one here. Bill 85 allows anyone to bring a dog on a terrace or any outdoor public service area across Quebec as long as they have the operator's authorization. This means it will be up to an individual bar or restaurant owner to decide whether or not to allow animals onto their outdoor properties. So I guess up until now, you could get a ticket if you had a dog like on like a patio at like a restaurant or something like that. It seems like that was a rule that wasn't enforced, but there was the option that it could happen. But Bill 85 got rid of that. So now it sounds like all the dépanneurs or whatever they're called, the convenience stores in Quebec, are going to have an uphill battle staying open because they're going to be competing with like grocery stores and pharmacies that are going to be offering cheaper prices. So that's kind of sad. But at the same time, I kind of agree with allowing business to sort itself out.
Yeah,
to an
it's
extent.
let the free market decide this one. And as long as the grocery stores are convenient, then they can act as convenience stores as well.
That's true.
Because the good thing about a convenience store is that it's, they're convenient because they're open later and they're, kind of on every corner. But if the grocery stores are able to fill that need, then as long as the need is being filled, then you know.
Yeah, it's just sad to think that like a small business owner is probably going to lose their job and lose their business, and a grocery store is just going to hire a couple minimum wage or close to it workers to work back shift.
Well, the convenience stores usually pay minimum wage as well. I don't know any convenience stores that
I
pay above
I think
minimum
a
wage.
lot of convenience stores are like the person who runs it works there like 15 hours a day.
Yeah, you can't work 15 hours at a grocery store.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't understand the business enough.
Neither of us do. That's why people come to this show.
Yeah, that doesn't stop us from talking about it. Well, let's move on because on episode 154, which we released on the 7th of March, we got a lot of feedback there as well. I pitched the idea of coming up with a Canadian place name that evokes negativity or unworthiness. You quickly shot the idea down, so we didn't pursue that any further. But that said, Nancy has an idea on a Canadian place name that would evoke nastiness. This is a special voicemail because I like to think that her husband doesn't want her listening to Keep Canada Weird, and he especially doesn't want her sending voicemails.
Hi there. I think to your question, I would have to say right off the bat, winter pig.
She is whispering, right? I'm not crazy.
No, as soon as that voicemail started, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Yeah.
He's asleep next to her, and she's got the phone like,
Yeah.
it's winter pig.
It's winter pig. I have to go. Goodbye. I love the show.
Yeah, we didn't pursue that. And given everything that's going on in this climate, I think you had the best idea, which is to find Canadian place names that evoke positivity and champion those place names.
Absolutely. Yeah. We should be proud of every town and nook and cranny in this country.
Almost most. Yeah, let's go with all of them. Sure. There's something redeeming about every one.
Every town has a hero.
Let's go on to the next one. Now, when we got into this segment, I promised that one of these stories is going to take us deep, deep, deep into a weird rabbit hole. And it's going to be thanks to Jesse from Oregon. During this episode, we were kind of talking about this idea of topics that we're discussing on the show kind of spinning into reality. And you gave this, you speculated or theorized that perhaps we are living in some sort of a simulation. Well, I'll let Jessie take it from there. Here it comes. Get your pen and paper ready because she's smarter than we are by a long shot.
Oh, and the pen's not going to do much for me.
This is Jessie, your correspondent from Eugene, Oregon. I just wanted to comment on something that Handsome Aaron said in the last episode regarding the potential future that is entirely simulation. There is a school of thought that the nature of our current reality is an illusion, and that is a belief system that goes back to the origins of Hinduism. And there is also a current fringe theory that we are already living in a simulation. So when I heard you discuss the concept of reality becoming entirely unreal, and that being helpful for differentiating between what is real and unreal, it caused me to think, well, we are likely currently living in several layers of unreality, and that if your vision for the future comes to fruition, that will just be another layer for us to engage in. So, I love these big philosophical concepts. I love hearing my neighbors to the north discuss them so eloquently and earnestly, and keep up the good work, boys.
Well, that was heavy. I guess the best way to handle this is let me just ask you, do you believe we are living in some kind of simulation?
Well, if we were living in a simulation, I would not be able to know that we were living in a simulation. So if I were to give you an honest opinion, about whether or not we are living in a simulation or not, my opinion wouldn't matter.
That's the issue, right? I thought about this long and hard, and actually, when I heard that voicemail earlier today, it set me down a bit of a research rabbit hole. I'm going to share some of my findings with you. So, whether or not we are living in a simulation is what's known as the simulation hypothesis. And that's the idea that our entire reality, everything we experience, is actually a simulation created by a more advanced civilization or a computer or AI or something like that. So, imagine a super advanced version of The Sims where characters, like you and I, are conscious and think the world is real, but it in fact is not such. There is evidence to support the idea or the theory that we are living within a simulation. Do you want to hear about some pieces of evidence?
I'd like any evidence you can give me.
Okay, so people who believe in the simulation hypothesis, what they point to generally is one, that there is no debate and it is scientifically proven that we live in a coded universe, meaning our universe operates in a highly structured way, governed by math, almost like code for a computer.
I'm not convinced by that one. Just because math exists doesn't mean we're in a simulation. Because if you look at it that way, then the superior beings who have created the simulation also live in their own simulation, because if they're using math as their code and all these things, then math code exists in their reality as well. Therefore, they are also living in a simulation. So that is a never-ending kind of domino.
That paradox sort of thing. Yeah. And another idea, or another, I guess, if you want to call it a piece of evidence, is that not only is the universe coded, it seems to have these built-in limits. So things like the speed of light could be there because that's like a maximum threshold that's put on because of maybe like the processing power of whatever computer system is running this whole thing. So since there seems to be some limits, another one would be like you're falling from a plane. Eventually you hit this speed where you just don't go any faster. You just stay at that speed.
Right. But
That doesn't do it.
that's just the laws of nature.
Okay. But are the laws of nature is it natural to have laws of nature, or is that the code that the all-seeing eye in the sky has put on our simulation?
I think if there was someone who created a simulation, they would eventually get very bored with the current limitations that they have for us, and they would want to take things up a notch. So they would
Yeah,
allow us to go faster than the speed of light. They would allow us to fall at accelerated speeds that always get faster and faster. Eventually, we're going
just to
to
spice it up.
just to spice things up.
Okay. Well, let's see if you can explain this one. Another bit of proof that we are living in a simulation is the Mandela effect. And that's where some people, large groups of people, misremember facts in the same way. Some see the Mandela effect as proof of some kind of glitch in the simulation. And if you're unfamiliar with the Mandela effect, that comes from the name comes from a widespread false memory that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s, or in fact, he wasn't. He remained president of South Africa until 1994, but a lot of people believe he died in the 80s for no apparent reason. Could it be a glitch in the Matrix?
No, because all of those situations with the Mandela effect, I think occur from kind of one person making that mistake, and then it ripples from there. Where one person misremembers something, like, and it just kind of spreads like wildfire. And
the Bernstein Bears, or Bernstein Bears, is one.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid reading the Bernstein Bears, but it is Bernstein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." That isn't what he said.
Right. Yeah.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
But I think it just takes us when people recreate something, they recreate it slightly different over and over and over again to the point where you actually don't remember what the original thing was. So, like Mandela effects, I find are just kind of extreme versions of that.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I will be convinced that we live in a simulation. I think, but if anything did convince me, it is this is an example of the Mandela effect, but it's one that I am falling for so hard. The belief that I have deep within my heart, in my memory, of a movie in the 90s called Shazam that starred Sinbad. You must have heard the idea like that as being an example of the Mandela effect. But I can remember the cover art for a 1990s movie called Shazam starring the comedian Sinbad.
But wasn't it Shaquille O'Neal?
I remember one with Sinbad called Shazam.
I always
And
thought that was a movie with Shaquille O'Neal in it.
I don't think Shaquille O'Neal was even in one called Shazam. But well, let me ask you this. Do you remember a movie called Shazam?
It sounds familiar. In my mind, it was Shaq Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal. So I'm not allowed to Google, but you certainly can.
We can during the mailbags.
You're right. Yeah, all bets are off in the mailbags. International waters.
Oh, Shaq had a movie called Kazam.
Kazam, that was it. Yeah, Kazam.
Well, that must be what people remember. But I remember Sinbad Shazam, but I must be thinking of Shaq Kazam. Maybe it isn't a simulation.
It's just misremembering things. It's like
I
that.
guess you're right.
It's like the game of telephone, where you have a bunch of people lined up, and the first person is giving something to whisper. They whisper into the ear of one person, and then the next person whispers the same thing into the next person's ear, and then you see how that phrase ends up on the other side. You hear it, the person tells you, you tell it to the next person right away, but at the end of the line, the phrase is quite different when you get there.
So should we rule on it? Are we living in a simulation or not?
I think it's an argument not worth having, because if we are in a simulation and we can never know the answer. I don't think we can never know, because we are in the simulation, so we can't know.
Okay. Well, whether we are or are not in a simulation, let's go on to the next voicemail, because this one may exist in that same simulation we're debating. Remember, we talked about the Pokemon cards that were stolen and suspiciously returned by a masked person. We have a theory on that, and I think this theory got it right. Here's Sherry's opinion.
Hello, Sherry from North Dakota. Pokemon cards. Could it have been a mother that saw what her child had after hearing the story, and she didn't want to get her child in trouble, or whoever this person may be in her life? So it was a made-up story so that the person didn't get in trouble, but at least they got their cards back. Just a thought.
I think that's a very good possibility. I think it's more likely that a mother or girlfriend or wife was like, "What are you doing with all these cards that you don't have the money to buy?" And the thief confesses and they make it right. I think that's more likely than a case of someone's ethics getting the better of them and then returning it. But what I will say is that since we aired that story about the stolen Pokemon cards, and we've covered Pokemon cards a bunch in the past, but it is like whatever's going on in the world of Pokemon card collecting, it has gone absolutely crazy over the last month. I've seen like video after video of like in-store fights and brawls and screaming matches all over the stock and availability of Pokemon cards. I guess the reseller market is just like bananas in that.
Yeah, and it's not a world that I live in. I don't follow Pokemon. I've never collected Pokemon. I know very little about Pokemon, and
You probably call it Pokemon. You're so out of touch.
yeah, but that's a different character, the Pokemon.
He's just like with his finger.
Yeah.
Come here.
Here comes the Pokemon.
I think it's maybe a fad that's just going to come and go, but it's been around for a while. Like Pokemon cards got popular back when we were like teenagers, and they're still going,
Hmm.
and perhaps more popular now than they ever were. I was actually I'll complain a bit. It's rant time. I was at a flea market just yesterday, Sunday. We're recording this Monday. I was at a flea market yesterday, and not exaggerating, I would guess 15, maybe 20% of the tables were just Pokemon cards.
The Pokemon has his own table at the flea market too. He's not selling anything. It's just the Pokemon.
Oh, is he not selling it, or is he not selling anything
He has
related
he
to
has
poke?
fudge. He's got fudge. He's
Yeah.
one of those people who sell
Oh
fudge at the
yeah,
flea
like
market.
baked goods. I would never buy flea market baked goods, but the Pokemon sells it.
He
Come
does.
here,
Yeah.
kid. You want a cinnamon bun?
Yeah.
Come here, look at you.
Look at you. No, he's a nice man.
Yeah. But what does he do?
What's it to you?
That's a good point. Uh,
He's not causing you any trouble.
He's not a senior citizen, I hope, because one thing we like to talk about is senior citizens in a positive light. The older, the sweeter, the better. The more ice cream, the best. Let's end with a wonderful voicemail sent from the other side of the world about seniors eating ice cream. This is Anna from Denmark, waxing poetic on seniors eating ice cream.
Hi from Denmark. First of all, I really love the show. It's refreshing to hear something new. But the thing I want to tell you is in the Keep Canada Weird episodes, you talk a lot about elderly people eating ice cream at the moment. And I couldn't help but think about my great aunt. She would, if she was feeling bad or having a sick day or something, she would take an entire liter of ice cream to bed and eat it and then fall asleep. Yeah, that was it.
We are the only podcast where it would be appropriate to send that voicemail and share that memory.
I agree, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud
too.
that we've gained that trust with our listeners.
Yeah, it's a safe place to tell us about your great aunt's bizarre bad
Passing out in a pool of melted ice cream.
What a way to sleep.
Yeah.
Actually, at first it'd be nice as it's like melting and all soft, but dried sticky ice cream would be disgusting. Imagine like passing out in the bliss of a full belly of ice cream is one thing, but waking up in like the sticky mess of I slept in ice cream, that'd be awful. And then to be 80 on top of it, like I'm like stuck to this. Like, what is this hell?
I don't know if that would, because you could lick it off yourself. That would be like a good way to enjoy the ice cream after it's
Yeah, what is this little
solidified.
treat? Yeah.
What is this treat I'm covered in?
You know what? Just speaking of seniors, on my most recent episode of the Nighttime Podcast, which is coming out, what is to us tomorrow, the 15th of April, my guest is an 84-year-old woman, the eldest guest I've ever had on Nighttime. She's an author from Saskatchewan, and she is 84. You would never know it. She talks circles around me. I told her at the end of it, like, I hope I'm half as articulate as you when I'm 45, let alone 85. It's amazing how some people's brains can just hold on.
Well, what's her ice cream policy though? Does she eat it in the daytime in a bowl, or does she sleep with her ice cream and covered in it?
I almost thought like it could have been fun to ask her a couple questions about that for Keep Canada Weird, but I was like, no, I'm not going there. We were talking about a serious topic, and she's like esteemed Canadian author, an Order of Canada recipient. So I wasn't going to waste your time by being like, just tell me a bit about your thoughts on ice cream as on behalf of seniors.
But imagine if she had very eloquent, passionate thoughts about ice cream that you would never expected, and you missed out on that opportunity to listen to that. Maybe she could have really explained this wave of seniors passing out in a pool of their own ice cream
all across Denmark
and God knows where else, because again, we're on this show, we're known to be tapping into uprisings and waves of crime that other people aren't talking about and are just finding out about. This could be the new thing for us to follow.
Here's the thing is, if You had, and this calls back to the beginning of the episode. You have your pen and paper. You were an investigative. You were an investigative journalist. I wish you had been on that call because I think you would have asked the hard questions to get to the bottom of the psychology of senior citizens eating ice cream.
Yeah, hard questions about hard ice cream because some ice cream is soft.
Yeah, but I think we've kind of made the distinction early on that it's seniors seem to prefer soft serve, and that kind of makes sense.
I'd like more data on that one actually. Because I
Don't
feel like soft serve is a younger person's treat,
really. I
whereas
think the opposite. I think soft serve is an older person's treat. A younger person, like the scooped ice cream, you don't call it hard serve. What would you call that?
yeah, it's hard ice cream.
Really? Okay. I've never heard of it called like hard ice cream. It's either like normal or soft serve. But anyway, hard ice cream that you got to scoop out there. Uh, that's
Yeah.
more for young people because there's so many different flavors. Seniors just want like vanilla, chocolate, and if they're getting crazy, maybe that swirly mixed stuff.
No, I think the territory that you're tiptoeing in right now, which is dangerous, I think, is that you're assuming that seniors like and prefer soft serve ice cream because perhaps their teeth are not in the chewing capacity that a younger person's teeth are in.
Hmm.
That's where I think you're heading with this, and I think
Okay.
that's ignorant, and I think it's dangerous. I think the reason that seniors prefer hard ice cream is because that's the traditional way to have ice cream, whereas soft serve is a more fancier kind where it's a different swirls and it's
Hmm.
dipped in different things, and they're more used to the Dairy Queen style. The youth are used to the Dairy Queen style of ice cream, which is traditionally soft serve, whereas the seniors like their 1930s vanilla hard AF ice cream.
Well, I think we've accomplished what we set out to do here. We've made a commitment that if you send us a voicemail, we will bend over backwards to get that thing aired. And that is the point of the mailbag. The mailbag was that platform to kind of be the catch all for things that fall through the cracks. We got through a lot of it tonight. We already have another stack of voicemails that we've received so far in April, and we'll get to them next month. But all that to say, if anyone out there has any thoughts, theories, opinions, feedback, anything you want to say at all, a rant, go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact, and you'll either be on an episode or in the next mailbag.
That would be very exciting for someone.
You want me to close this bag?
Close the bag.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you've got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you can email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, you, Nicole, for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
I'm not leaving that in there.
Well, It's the mailbag.
Should I beep it?
It's like international waters.
I wonder if people would be offended if I beeped it every time.
No, vagina's a totally cool word to say. You don't have to worry about beeping vagina. Can you imagine? Because then people are going to think I'm saying like an even, a derogatory word